Our poem is Midterm Break by Seamus Heaney. When we first read the poem, it was very clear it's about a funeral, but we didn't actually know who it was about until we researched it. We made a short prezi with some pictures. All the pictures on here are the first pictures that came into mind when we read it, and we want to see what your ideas are, if anybody understands what the poem's about. So here it is. Harriet's going to read it. Ready?
I sat all morning in the college sick bay, counting bells, kneeling classes to a close. At 2 o'clock our neighbours drove me home. In the porch I met my father crying. He had always taken funerals in his stride, and Big Jim Evans saying it was a hard blow. The baby cooed and laughed and rocked in the pram when I came in, and I was embarrassed by old men standing to shake my hand and tell me they were sorry for my trouble. Whispers informed strangers I was the eldest. Away at school, as my mother held my hand in hers and coughed out angry, tearless sighs, at 10 o'clock the ambulance arrived, with the corpse stanched and bandaged by the nurses. Next morning I went up to his room. Snowdrops and candles soothed the bedside. I saw him, for the first time in 6 weeks, paler now, wearing a poppy bruise on his left temple. He lay in a 4-foot box as in his cot. No gaudy scars, the bumper knocked in clean. A 4-foot box, a foot for every year.
Hey, so now I'm just gonna, what was your ideas about the poem? Does anyone think they know who's died?
It's for your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to get it like quickly, but yeah, that's what the poem's about. I'm just gonna, I've got a presentation, I'm just gonna explain some more meaning about it. This is on Funter, so you don't really have to write everything down because you can do it in your own time later. Okay, well, you don't really have to pay attention to this. Right. So the first thing, there's something called Mitzel. It's a good way to remember. If you get asked to talk about a poem, it's meaning, imagery, tone, structure, and language. So the first line is about meaning. It's about, when we read it, we know it's about a funeral, about his little brother. But the way he talks about his eldest suggests that there's a certain pressure to be strong and support the rest of the family. And the main contrast we picked up on is how he feels when he's alone to how he feels when he's around other people. Imagery. When we read it, we thought of like a scene of like lots of people standing or sitting, like feeling uncomfortable. So if you've ever been at a family occasion, like everybody's right, and you feel like you have to say or do the right thing, not really your emotion at the time. So that's something we can all relate to. And he doesn't really talk about his feelings. He only talks about what he sees, so that kind of creates a tone of it being indifferent and casual until the end, where he seems more personal, and it's almost angry in the last rhyming couplet. Structure, it's just written in 3-line stanzas. Yeah, it doesn't really rhyme until the end. There's a use of this funny French word that I still can't pronounce. And that creates a feeling of a time shift, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Yeah, language. He uses quite simple words, so it's easy to relate straight from the start. You can visualise yourself in his shoes. It's not complicated. What else? Like all the words, like we thought. All the words, like when we read it, we thought it was quite simple until when you like really dissect it, every single word seems to have a double meaning. There's lots of metaphors in it. Yeah. At the beginning, he says it's 2 o'clock. Then he says it's 10 o'clock, and then he says the next morning. So it creates a feeling of time moving slowly, and throughout the whole poem he refers to his dead brother as a corpse. Until line 16, he refers to him as him, which is more personal, suggesting he feels more comfortable being by himself. There's 2 metaphors that I found in there, and there's a website you can click on, a link to a website to explain more. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Is there any questions?
Who chose to do this poem?
Both of us.
We sort of decided together. We sort of went through the book. We found about, I think it was like 3 that we
I
liked.
thought it's quite sad and depressing because they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Fun. Yeah, so
Who's like talking the poem? Like who like is it in first person or something?
it's like I'm not sure. I think it's just like an account of what happened. It's like he's just really just telling what happened. It's like
First person.
yeah, first person. It's him. It's the author.
So when it's first person and it's did you research if Seamus Heaney actually did lose his brother when?
Yeah, on the website I went onto, there's a response page where he actually gives, if you want to get some quotes, he actually talks about when he found out.
Yeah, so it's actually true.
Yeah.
So what would you call this? Autobiographical. Well done.
Yeah, hence our little message at the beginning. His brother died when he was 4, so that was the symbolism of that. Is there anything else?
Did you enjoy researching the poem?
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like every little thing had another meaning to it.
Yeah.
I was even till like last night. I was finding out more stuff like with the poppy. The poppy is a metaphor of death and life because it has you know the drug you get from poppies is healing. That's another thing.
Heroin.
Yeah. Well, it can be used as like for medicine. Yeah, so it was interesting.